All right, Ravens flock. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. Happy holidays to all. It is Christmas Eve right now as I make this video, and I'm pretty sure by the time I upload it, it will be Christmas Day. Ravens flock, we know what Christmas Day is going to be about for us. This was a really interesting Sunday. It was a really interesting Sunday. A lot of interesting matchups. The Dolphins and the Cowboys went at it at Miami. The game came down to the wire. Dolphins were able to get the win, and with that win, they were able to clinch a playoff spot and move to 11-4 in the season. We just had a crazy game that just occurred between the Broncos and the Patriots. Patriots put up 20 points in the third quarter due to the incompetence of the Broncos, and then the Broncos in the fourth quarter fought back to tie the game. Yet, despite all that work, they still found a way to lose the game because they couldn't make a stop on third down and gave up a huge play to Devontae Parker that put the Patriots into Broncos territory. A couple plays later, they were able to move close and close and get into field goal range. They win it with a game-winning field goal, 26-23. And the Denver Broncos, they hand their fans easily the most brutal loss of the season because it feels like that loss might have killed their chances to make the playoffs. Either way, I'm not here to talk about that. We had some interesting games here, and after a whole Sunday, the AFC is looking a little bit more tighter in terms of the AFC North itself, but also the battle for the 1 seed. So, Baltimore plays football tomorrow night on Christmas Day in San Francisco against the 49ers. This is going to be the biggest test of the season for the Ravens. It's expected to be one of the best, if not the best game this season. It is going to be a tough matchup. The 1 seed from the AFC versus the 1 seed from the NFC. This is supposed to be a battle to determine who is going to be considered the best team in football. It also seems to be a battle between the two quarterbacks in the MVP conversation, and apparently somehow it's come down to Brock Purdy versus Lamar Jackson. If Purdy and the Niners can get the win, Brock Purdy all but seals up the MVP in his favor. If Lamar and the Ravens are able to pull off the upset, because this is seen as an upset, the Niners are favored at home for this game. If Lamar and the Ravens are able to pull off the upset and Lamar balls out and plays well, the MVP race shifts and maybe Lamar takes the lead or it becomes a lot closer. I don't know. I'm not really focused on the MVP race. What I'm focused on is this game determining how things are going to look moving forward. Because as I said, the AFC's gotten tighter. I already talked about the Dolphins winning, but there was another football team that was able to win, and they won in convincing fashion, and that was the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, led by Joe Flacco, was able to go out there and get a very, very, very dominant win against the Houston Texans. So with that victory, the Cleveland Browns moved to 10-5 on the season. 10-5 on the season. Very interesting. So Cleveland is still very much alive in the race for the AFC North. And based on what we're seeing here, technically, they have an outside shot to potentially get the 1 seed because they're still within the vicinity of that. They got 2 games left, one against the Jets, the other against the Bengals. I honestly do not believe they're going to lose either one of those games with the way they've been playing over these last few weeks. So I think it's very plausible the Browns can end the season at 12-5, which means the key for Baltimore is 13 wins. Let me tell you this right now. The best thing Baltimore did this season, or did last week and managed to get done against the Jaguars, was winning that game and securing a playoff spot. Because with the way the AFC is looking right now, you don't want to be on the outside looking in. Guaranteeing yourself a trip to the playoffs is the number one thing you're looking to do. Before even getting the division and everything else, guaranteeing yourself a ticket to the postseason is the number one thing you're looking to do. Baltimore got that out the way. Now they're looking to not only get the AFC North, but get the number 1 seed in the AFC and get that first round bye. There's 2 scenarios that need to occur. One for each one of those situations I talked about. The first scenario is winning the AFC North. It's very simple. Baltimore has 3 games left. Tomorrow against the Niners, next week on New Year's Eve against the Dolphins, and week 18 in a game that we don't know when it's going to be occurring because we don't actually have a specific time. It's TBA right now. We'll see whatever they choose to put it on. I'm sure it's going to be an afternoon game depending on the chances. Who knows? Maybe that might be for the AFC North. I don't know, but that one has not been determined. Either way, you've got 3 more games left. Tomorrow against the Niners, next week against the Dolphins, and week 18 against the Steelers. Baltimore needs to win 2 of those 3 games in order to clinch the AFC North. 13 wins is most likely going to win the division this year because Cleveland obviously sits at 5 losses. They can't get to 13 wins. So if Baltimore can finish with a record of 13-4 or above, potentially 14-3, and not lose any of their final 3 games, they will clinch the AFC North. Now, the other scenario is the number 1 seed. And this is kind of a different scenario because it's not about wins. It's about who you win against. Baltimore right now is competing with the Miami Dolphins for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Baltimore and Miami meet up next week on New Year's Eve. Baltimore has to win 2 of their final 3 games in order to put themselves in that position for the number 1 seed, but it's more than that. Baltimore needs to have one of those 2 wins happen against the Dolphins. So, in order to win the AFC North, if Baltimore beats the Niners, loses to the Dolphins, and beats the Steelers in Week 18, they win the AFC North. However, they may not get the number 1 seed. What Baltimore needs to do is beat the Dolphins in either the Niners or the Steelers. They do that, they get the number 1 seed. The reason for this is because the Dolphins do have the tiebreaker against us. And, well, they would have the tiebreaker against us if we were to win. Like I said, if we were to beat the Niners, lose to the Dolphins, and beat the Steelers, we would end the season 13-4. It's very possible the Dolphins also end the season 13-4. And if they beat us head-to-head, that's the tiebreaker. Dolphins get the number 1 seed. So, Baltimore, honestly, the easiest thing for Baltimore to do in terms of this scenario, win all 3 of your final games. You beat the Niners tomorrow, you beat the Dolphins next week, you beat the Steelers, you're good. In terms of actually clinching everything, if Baltimore beats the Niners tomorrow and the Dolphins next week, they don't got to worry about Week 18. They would have both the AFC North divisional title and the number 1 seed locked up before they even have to step foot on that field against the Steelers. So that would be the best case scenario. But if you win all 3 of those games, you just pretty much guarantee nothing would happen. No crazy scenario would ever take away the 1 seed or the division from you. But yeah, that's the easiest route. The more complicated route is if you don't beat the Dolphins, but you do beat the Niners and the Steelers. Well, you will win your division, but you may not get the 1 seed because Week 18, because the Dolphins getting that win against you, and then them having to go against the Bills Week 18. If they win that game, they would win their division and possibly to get the number 1 seed as well. Either way, it's a lot of interesting scenarios that we will see unfold in the coming weeks. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is focusing on what's going to happen tomorrow, because what's happening on Christmas Day is a battle. It's a gauntlet. Based on the injury report, we're not going to have Armour Davis or Anthony Millette playing. So Millette's not playing, and Armour Davis is not playing. So they're going to be missing for this game. Also, Zay Flowers is questionable, but Zay Flowers is not missing this game. Let's be honest. Unless there's some sort of complications that occur last second, Zay Flowers will be on the football field tomorrow helping us try to beat the Niners. So we ain't got to worry about him. He's going to play. But yeah, you're going to be missing 2 corners. This is going to be a very tough and potentially the highly contested game. The Ravens defense, for the most part, is going to have to lock in. I think we see a lot of the matchups. You know Kyle Hamilton's going to have his main focus on George Kittle. You're going to be looking at Humphrey and Stevens to focus in on Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. And then Roquan Smith is going to have a very interesting battle with Christian McCaffrey. So those are the matchups you're going to see with the Ravens defense versus the Niners offense. Ravens, obviously, we're going up against their corners and their guys, but the biggest X factor on our offense is Lamar Jackson because he's able to do things off script that pretty much no one else can do, and the Niners are going to be focused on that. Not to mention, this should be very interesting in terms of how they're going to try to match up with Lamar Jackson because it's been 3 years since not even 3 years, it's been 4 years since they faced off against Lamar Jackson. And when they played Lamar Jackson in that MVP season, it was under a different offensive scheme, and Lamar Jackson was a different quarterback back then. Funny enough, when they met 4 years ago, both teams were were actually the number 1 seed at the time, and it was a battle to see who deserves to be considered the best team in football, and the Ravens were able to get the 20-7 victory. And if you go back and look at that game, you would tell a lot of it was really focused on zoning in on what the Ravens were doing with Lamar Jackson with those design runs. Like, I went back and rewatched that game, and there were so many design runs that they had with Lamar Jackson. Also, everything was so bunched up. Lamar was working from the pistol, and they were really only attacking the middle of the field in the passing game. They weren't looking outside. They were attacking the middle field. I think there was one time where I saw Lamar actually throwing outside. He probably did that maybe 2 or 3 times in the game, but there was one time I remember him throwing outside, and that was early on in the game when he was looking for Willie Snead, and he missed him downfield, but it wouldn't have mattered because Willie Snead was completely covered. That pass was not going to be completed, even if Lamar put it on the money. So, yeah, they couldn't get anything outside against the Niners. It was a lot of design runs by Lamar Jackson, special plays by Lamar Jackson, and attacking the middle of the field with our passing game, mostly targeting guys like Mark Andrews for the most part. But with this offense and with this Lamar, the Niners can't really... Perfect time for that. That's going to be in the video. Perfect. But with this offense... Oh, God, that means it's Christmas. Oh, wow. In the middle of recording, it just turned 12 o'clock, so it is Christmas. I'm keeping this in the video. But, yeah, the last time they faced off against Lamar in the offense, it was really about them making sure they stayed fundamentally sound in terms of stopping the Ravens' run game and these design runs by Lamar Jackson. But we don't run an offense like that. And it was also about keeping everything, in front of them and making sure they keep everything concise within the middle of the field. We don't run an offense like that anymore. We're perfectly fine attacking the perimeter. We will attack all over the field. We've got skill position players that we trust to be able to make plays all over the field. And Lamar Jackson is throwing both in and outside the numbers. He's throwing all over the perimeter. He's perfectly fine throwing routes outside the numbers, and he's been doing it at a high level this year, and that's not really much of a problem. Not to mention, Lamar Jackson himself is not really running a lot of those design quarterback runs. Most of his rushing yards this year has been on scrambles when the pocket is collapsed and Lamar Jackson just makes magic by either trying to roll to his left and roll to his right, extend the play and create something downfield in the passing game, or he just starts juking people, sidestepping individuals, taking off and picking up yards for the first down. So the Niners have a much more difficult task at hand than the Lamar Jackson they faced 4 years ago, because now it's not about just keeping him contained in the pocket. It's more so about staying fundamentally sound with Lamar, but also making sure every one of his receivers are covered and nobody breaks free, because we do run wide receiver screens. We try to get the ball in the hands of our receivers early on. We try to get things going, quick throws outside the numbers, trying to get them going, setting some blocking up to see if we can get Zay Flower to utilize his speed to get something. We attack outside the perimeter with Odell and Aguilar and Bateman and Flowers. So we do a lot more with our offense. It's not about Lamar just working in the pistol and attacking the middle of the field with the passing game, or just, taking those quarterback design runs. We rarely run design runs. We're running whatever we want. Lamar Jackson is free to do whatever he wants within the offense, and we're attacking every single aspect of the field, both in and outside the numbers. So the Niners definitely do have a much bigger task to deal with than in previous years, but we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end it here. I did not expect it to actually turn 12 o'clock before I got this done. Then again, I didn't think I was going to be speaking this long. I wasn't expected to go over 10 minutes, but apparently I did. So, yeah, it's Christmas time, which means it's game time for the Ravens. Let's see what they do against the Niners. I expect it to be a huge, major game. I expect the Ravens to show out, and hopefully they'll deliver the Ravens flock a Christmas gift of a W. Meaning, we get that win, we go to 12-3, we head into New Year's Eve knowing if we beat the Dolphins, not only do we get the number 1 seed, but we also win the division, and Week 18 isn't something we have to stress about, though I would recommend, even if you were to clinch the number 1 seed and win the division, you still want to play your starters, at least for a half against the Steelers in Week 18. But we'll talk about scenarios that we haven't even approached yet. Let's focus on this game here. Let's see if we can get a win against the Niners, and let's go from there. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for watching, and that's all I've got. Peace out.